Hello, and welcome to this series of videos in which we will show you how to create apps and portals using the Silver Essence platform. More information can be found here in the online boarding manual at training.silveressence.net. So, for this video, let me show you what we are going to do in the first section here today. When you log on to the portal, in this case, you end up with the screen of organization. And on the top section of the page, you can see a number of search fields. You can use these fields to filter out the data and find the correct organization you want to have a look at or edit. So simply fill out these fields and click enter or the search button, and a list with the results will appear. And this list will have a number of columns. Click on the item you want to view in detail and it will be opened. And some fields are shown directly, while other fields are hidden here underneath the slider. Less is more, but if you need it, it's there. And when you click the edit icon, you will see a number of fields that you can edit. So that's what we are going to look at in the first section of this video. So let's start with the quick editor. Enter your partner username and password. That is because we want to prevent regular users from coming into here. When you start the quick editor, it will start with the business entity quick editor. On the top right of the business entity quick editor, you can select the business entity you want to edit. In this case, we are going to start with location. And on the top left, you will see there are three tools available within the business entity quick editor. And we're going to start with the search list order tool. Now, as you can see, location name is already selected as a search and list column. And we're going to add some more. We're going to add the location number. City might come in handy when we search for a location. As you can see, the counter counts up on the top. We want to have the phone number, email address and contact person, and owner organization. We want that as a search box on top, and that will automatically check the list column, so you can check that it is really from that owner organization. You can uncheck that box if you like. The second tool, if you select that for the first time, it will look like no properties are visible here, but they definitely are here. And you will find them in this list down here. And from this list, you can pick the property you want to add in the correct order and assign it to that position. So let's start with the location number. The next property will be the parent location ID. And as you can see, the counter counts up automatically. So number 3 will be the owner organization ID. Another way to do that is to check this box up here and use the batch update. This will show all properties, and now you can fill in the numbers manually in which you want the properties to appear. So this puts all the properties in that order. And you can skip some numbers if you plan to add some properties later. How? That we will show you in the second part of this video. Click Update Properties and the properties will be sorted in the correct order here. So, having said that, let's have a look at the screen here. And next we will have a look at how to configure which properties will appear where underneath the slider. That's done from the same screen here. As you can see, we have the key, main and most checkboxes here, and that's exactly how the slider behaves. So if you don't want to see it directly, uncheck it as a key property and move it to the main or the most column. You can even leave out one of these three, and you can even select hide from UI if it should never be shown. So update the properties, and there you have it. So the third tool we have within the Business Entity Quick Editor is the entry form presentation. Remember, when we created the location table, we set location number to be an auto number. So when creating locations, we don't need that property because it will be filled in the background. So we can leave it out when we edit data as well, and we can mark it as read only. It will be filled by the database. Now, the other properties we need when we create a location, except for the last two, created and modified, those will be filled in the background as well. So we will leave them when creating or editing locations. And let's put them to read only. Click the Update Properties button and then click Save Configuration to save and apply the changes you did here. Now let's switch to the full editor. And in the full editor we can have a preview at how the screen will look to the end user who is going to go to locations. So from the Modeling Business Controller menu, on the left we select location, and as you can see we have two search fields and the list columns as selected are visible here. When we click the Create button, the first thing we can enter here is the parent location and the owner organization ID. And as you can see, location number, which we put at number 1 in the screen, isn't visible because we didn't want that when creating locations. So let's enter a new location here. And as you can see, created and modified aren't visible either. So there you have it. The fields that are directly visible and some of the other fields which are hidden underneath the slider. Click Edit, and again location number isn't visible and created and modified aren't visible either. Now let's click the location we previously entered, and here it will be shown in the same order. Last time we created this location, we didn't have the owner organization ID mandatory, but now it is, so we need to fill it here. Now, let's say we created this list and we have phone and email visible here, but we need to add extra columns. Then we go into the Modeling Business Entities tab on top and select Location from the list on the left. On the right you will have the Business Entity Quick Editor, and we go back to the Search, List and Order tool. Now, let's say we looked at the screen and we say facts. We want that also as a list column. Change it and then click Save Configuration to save and apply the changes. Go back to the business controller and click the refresh button on the left in the list of business controller. That will refresh the screen, and as you can see, the facts column is now available as well. So if you need to change something, just go back to the business entity quick editor or whatever tool you are using. Don't forget to click the Save Configuration button here and then click the refresh button for that business controller and you can change that. So when we created the database, we also created a view for X locations, which held some additional information which we calculated in the database for location. The number of service objects and the number of sublocations was in there. Now we want to have that information here in location. So we created the base entity for that already in a previous video. So now we are going to add it here to the business entity. So from the list of base entities, we will select X location. You can select any base entity as long as there is a relation to the base entity that is already in there. So location has a location ID, X location has also a location ID. So by combining these two, we will combine the data from both the table and the view in one single business entity. So there you have it, two base entities in one business entity. Let's go here to the properties, and on the right you can select inheritance. Let's refresh the list of properties here, and then you will see that from the X location the properties are now available as well. Let's add these properties by clicking the arrows here in the center of the screen. There you go. Now let's go to the quick editor here, and you can see the properties are added here as well. And I can simply select them to be used in lists. I can select them to be used as search fields, whatever I would like to do with them, because they behave exactly the same as the properties from location. So I can go into the positioning and visibility tool, and let's put service object here at this number, and I'm going to assign it to this position. And then I'm going to pick the last property, and let's put that at number 100. And I'm not going to assign it this time, I'm going to insert it at this position to show you the difference. If I insert it at this position, it will be placed at position number 100, and both created and modified will have to move one place. Now, since these fields come from a view, they are calculated values, we don't need them when entering a new location, and when modifying an existing location we should of course also not modify the values, because that wouldn't work in the database. Save and apply the configuration. Go back up here to the business controller and refresh that business controller. And as you can see, two additional columns are now available, holding the number of service objects and sub-locations. When creating a new location, those properties are not visible. Open up one of the locations here and you can see the properties are also visible here. So there you have it. That's how you can use the Business Entity Quick Editor to style and modify the behavior of the screens. And you have seen the attributes and composition option to use multiple base entities within the same business entity.